Hello, hello, hello. It's Wednesday. It's Transformation Wednesday here. I know that I saw some of you guys on Monday, and I told you that we were going to be here on Wednesday as well. So if you're here tonight and you were here on Monday, kudos to you, because that means that you just love learning and growing, and that's what this group is all about. So again, I always start by introducing myself, because every week we have new people inside this group, and I'm so glad that you guys are recommending the Facebook community to your friends, to your colleagues, to your district. Feel free to share and tell everyone that you think this group might serve about it, so they can join us. And welcome everybody. Welcome. I see Madeline is already here, and so I am so happy. And again, my name is Berta Delgadillo, and I teach high school Spanish in Savannah, Georgia. And I've been teaching for close to 7 years, and I just started school yesterday. So yesterday was my first day back virtually, and my students won't start until the 19th. But I'm really excited. Even though it's not the way I wanted to go back, I'm determined to make the most out of it. And definitely, I'm looking forward to continue to share more on that with you. But today, I have a special guest, because we need to talk about a topic that sometimes we as teachers tend to leave behind, especially me. I'm guilty of that. I'm very guilty of just going in the zone to work, and I love my job so much in so many ways, and I get lost on like lesson planning and looking for engagement strategies and learning and everything. And then it's like, oh, Berta has no time to like take a long bath, or Berta has no time to read a book she actually enjoys reading that's not professional learning. And then I get tired, and then my back starts aching. I mean, you guys know it. I don't know if I'm by myself on this journey, but we are here today to talk about mental health and anxiety. So if you are interested in learning more about that, please stay with us, because we have a long discussion. So I'm going to introduce you to my friend Dana, and I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about herself. Dana.
Hi. My name is Dana Skoman. I am on Instagram as Smiling with Science, and I'm so excited to be here because mental health really is a big part of my life personally. I struggle with it daily. And being a teacher, it's like threefold, because you have the mental health of the students, the mental health of yourself, and then also I'm a mom. So then I come home and I'm like, oh my gosh, I also have to do all this mental health here too. And so it's very personal for me. And it's very easy, I have found, to get wrapped up in the craziness, as you said, at school. And then all of a sudden you realize, like, oh, I really don't feel good. Like, when did this happen? And then it makes so much more sense. And this year in particular, 2020 has it out for our mental health right now. So we have to really zero in on it. And I feel like there's still so many people that just don't want to talk about it because they feel so alone or ashamed. And that's also why I think it's so important in the classroom to talk about it and to have tips to help with your students, because I know a lot of my students. I teach science. I teach 3rd and 4th grade science, but I'm in a school that is 80% Hispanic only, and like the parents do not speak English. They try, but it's broken. It's broken English, and it's very hard when I've talked to the parents for them to understand that it's not a bad thing to get the help, or to even like use some of the strategies for them. And then they just don't know where to go for it. So that's kind of where I started my journey with my students and with myself as a teacher and the teachers on my Instagram. So that's a long answer.
No, not at all. And I want to invite the teachers who are watching us tonight to follow you on Instagram. And they have an Instagram account, which your Instagram handle is should be on the screen. It's @Smiling with Science, because Dana posts really, really positive and beautiful messages just about daily, and they're very uplifting. So if you want to go follow her, and so that you can get your daily dose of encouragement.
Yes, thank you. You'll see a lot of them I relate to personally because, again, it's stuff that I have gone through or am dealing with personally. To be honest, even today is just a rough day. It's just this lull of, what is going to be this school year. I go back in 3 weeks. You can't believe you started yesterday. We go back in 3 weeks, and they just switched it yesterday that we are doing the first 3 weeks virtual. So it's like you feel like you finally have it, and then all of a sudden it's like gone again, and you're like, what is happening?
Yep, that's one of the things I told myself as soon as I got out on break. I told myself I'm not going to plan anything because everything's going to change.
Yep.
So I'm gonna plan as I get closer to it, and I haven't even really started making resources yet because things are still changing. So
Yeah.
I know I'm gonna be virtual. I'm getting a new platform, so I'm just going along, and because I don't want to invest all that cognitive energy, and then they're gonna tell me, oh, you know what, change the plans last minute.
Right, so, and then you don't even realize it, but then you end up beating yourself up too because you feel like you wasted all of your time on something that you're not going to use anyway, or we are not kind to ourselves. Like that is something that we really have to work on as a society and I just posted about it, is that like we have to treat ourselves as our own best friend because especially in a school. And someone had said about anxious colleagues and negative colleagues. There are some people who just feed off of misery and, they want company. So we need to be our own best friend, and things that we would not say. Yeah, things that I wouldn't say to you, I shouldn't say to myself. So that's very important. And you also hit. I was looking at a post earlier in your Facebook, and a teacher was saying about like, I don't know how I'm going to do this year. It's going to be so different. And I wrote it down because I specifically wanted to, say that it is going to be different. It is. It's going to be different, and you're going to feel like you don't know how to do it. And the biggest thing that I just keep telling myself is that you are not alone, and that we have to really accept the fact that we are not going to be 100% like the teacher that we want to be this year. And that is okay. You are not going to be that teacher that is, you might be, and good for you. But if you're not, that is absolutely okay. I had a lot of people that were like, oh, virtual learning, it's going to be piece of cake. And I'm like, is it though? Is it? So, and that's okay. Like, it's okay for me as a science teacher to understand that I'm not going to be able to do the labs that I want to do. And I know there's a lot of, like, my Spanish teacher at my school does like a around the world and hits like different he actually changes the room around and like stuff like that. Like, he's gonna have to not be able to do something like that. But the thing is that I wanted to say is that we can make that work though, especially with world language. I had talked about Flipgrid. Flipgrid is so cool. And you can still talk to each other and reply to each other. And that has really helped me too with Flipgrid, with my mental health with the kids, because they can tell me how they're feeling and then I can reply to them. So yeah, I really wanted to make sure I said something about that one comment, because it is very imperative that we know that it is not going to be how you want to teach this year. There's going to be some aspect of it that is going to be very different, and that is okay. It's okay. So I want to touch on if you don't mind, things that I do when I'm in the classroom and I am freaking out. So I talk about my five senses a lot. And there's just 5 things that you can do in the classroom that even if you have all 24 kids staring at you, you can still do it. So we'll start with sight. And this is the biggest thing is just look at the students, right? Like look at how they are smiling and they're happy and find that one person who is smiling because you're making them smile. And that is really, it can really remind you of your why and like take a deep breath and like, okay, all right, they're smiling. I did something, even if they're doing it and they don't, they're not following the directions. They're still happy to be there, right? It's still an outlet.
Absolutely. I love that because I was preparing a presentation the other day, and I always like to include pictures of my students on my presentations, which I always make sure I have permission from the parents to do that. Um, so I was looking through my picture library, and I actually noticed several pictures where my students are smiling, and some of those pictures were actually not even staged. And
Yeah.
it's funny that you mentioned that because it brought me so much happiness.
Yes,
Just
because
thinking
you
of
don't
that
realize
moment.
the happiness. Like sometimes we have to take that second of panic and step back and be like, wait, I'm not telling you to say cheese. Like you're really smiling for this picture, right? Another thing actually, you brought up the other thing with vision is looking at pictures. I have pictures all over my classroom, and that is something even with world language, put up pictures of, in different places of people smiling. It's been, I don't know the actual statistics, but it has been proven that to have pictures of you and friends and everyone smiling around you makes you smile more. So you can totally pull that into your curriculum and put up pictures from, if you're talking about Spain or if you're talking about, in a French class, if you're talking about Paris or, wherever, like pull pictures from that diverse place of people smiling and being happy. And so that's like the biggest thing for looking. You know what? And honestly, to be real, sometimes if I'm really in that much of a funk, I say, you know what? We're gonna pause, and I pull out a video, and we just go on YouTube and like I'll do like funny cats or something, like sometimes, and that's okay. Like you have to, the kids are like, what is she doing? And it just kind of like brings everyone back down to like this normal level of just fun and smiling again.
Absolutely. And we could do that in our world language classroom too, because we have I want to say a strategy or that where we create language out of a short clip. It's called clip chat, or it used to be known as
Oh, I
TikTok,
love
but
that.
it's called clip chat. So you can even do a clip chat of funny cats. Why not?
Oh my
And bring
gosh,
smile
yes.
to their faces and to yours. It's all about
Yes.
just getting on the right mindset, because I know that, I mean, usually for the most part, I have good days, but I know that there are some days where I'm just not, for one reason or another. So,
Yep. No, and you say that, but I also think that it's very important as teachers that we are open with our students about it. If I do have one of those days where I feel like, you know what, I am just not feeling it today, I have always been open with my students about it. I don't go to the point where like I want them to worry about me, but I have said like, you know what, guys, I'll say like, have you ever just woke up and you're just like grouchy? And they're like, oh yeah, Miss Skoman. And I'm like, that's where I'm at right now. And it's like, even that, just like releasing that to your classroom can really make a difference too. It almost gives you the sense of feeling human to your students. And it can really open up a beautiful conversation, because then the students can be like, oh yeah, I felt this way too.
absolutely. And it's funny that you mentioned that too, because in December, I left my part-time job that was my part-time job for 3 years. So for 3 years, I worked at school and I worked after school at a restaurant. I was a waitress.
Okay.
And I did 3 shifts a week. So that means after school, 5 o'clock, I had to
Oh my
like get out of
goodness.
school, eat, change, and then 5 o'clock be at the restaurant. And I didn't get back home until 11:30 at night.
Wow.
And then the next day be early at the school. And my students knew I had a part-time job at a restaurant. And sometimes I would do that. I would just tell my students, guys,
I'm tired.
I am very tired. I
Yeah.
worked last night very late, and today my body's really feeling it. And I teach high schoolers, and I noticed that they just had a lot of my students work too. So they work after school. And they were so kind. They were so kind. And if somebody would try to be crazy that day, some of them would even step in for me and say, don't do that to her. Like, like, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that comes back to having such a good relationship. And I think mental health and relationships go hand in hand 100% in classrooms, in any classroom, any subject. If you have that relationship with your students that you can say, I worked, I'm tired, they're gonna have your back. And not that you expect them to have it, but it's nice to know that like there's this respect between you and the students. It's not like, oh, Miss Skoman's a teacher, she's 100% perfect all the time. No, no, I'm not. So let me see. Let's go. So we have C. So another thing is here that kind of goes with the same thing with what you were saying with hearing this funny videos. And I also do music a lot in my class. Music is everything. I'm huge Backstreet Boys fan. It's all over my Facebook or my Instagram. My husband is an EMT, just came home from the hospital, so he's walking in now. So music, and again, if you're not feeling it and you feel yourself start to like panic or you need like a break, put on music. Put it to go with the class that you're teaching, and I keep saying this because it is so important to have the kids a part of what is helping you through it, because they might have like the favorite song that it is. Well, then you put on that favorite song, you're now okay, like they're laughing, they're like, oh, it's my song, and then like everything just kind of like de-escalates, right? When we are escalated, we cannot de-escalate any kind of a situation. So the more frustrated or panicky or stressed out that we get, it's not going to help any kind of a student that is stressed out and angry and has all the feelings that we have. So it's kind of like working together to get past that.
And it's world language teachers are also notorious for using integrating language. I mean, not language, language obviously, but music in their classroom. We have we teach through songs also, and it could be popular songs that have just been released, as long as they're appropriate for the students.
Yeah.
And I know that in my class particularly, I create every week I show a song or a part of a song, because you don't have to teach the whole song. You can just teach little parts of the song. You can just focus on the chorus, or you can just focus on a story spin-off from the song. But the point is that the students get exposed to a different song every week. And throughout the weeks, we accumulate a playlist of different styles of music. And some students will connect with some songs, because I try to not just limit it to one style of music. I want them to hear music from all over Latin America and Spain. So, so for that reason, we end up with a pretty lengthy class list, and they have their favorites. And like you said, sometimes not only while we're studying the song, we use the song. We might move on to some other topic, and then I will play the song in the background. It makes me happy. It makes the students happy. So it's just it helps. It
just lightens the mood. It just lightens it. It's nice.
It creates that. It strengthens that relationship and that community, because that's your music. It's your class playlist.
Yep. Absolutely. Yes. 100% yes. Yeah, it's just that goes to something that I do in the very beginning of class is I give them a survey and I ask them like their favorite songs or what do they do when they feel like they're stressed out, and a lot of them actually do say that they play music. Someone this last year said that she does ASMR, I think it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And I had never heard of it. I had never heard of it. It's this thing on Facebook, and it's like these videos of like just these weird sounds, and they're supposed to calm you down. So like this one time when I was like really stressed out during class, one of the kids was like, "Try it, Miss Skoman, just try it, put it on," and it was just ridiculous. Like it was ridiculous. It was like this girl and she had like a bucket with like a blush brush and she was just like playing with like these like metal balls inside this bucket and just weird sounds, and it just was like they wanted to help me and it did end up helping because it was just so outside my box. It was so weird. um, but yeah, so that goes back with the
But
relationship.
I like that idea of the music. Also, my friend Claudia and I, we taught an online course a couple of weeks ago. And one of the things we did to connect with the students, we asked them information about themselves. But one of the questions was, what is your favorite song in Spanish? Because these students were coming for a pre-AP Spanish, so they had already at least
Oh,
2 years of Spanish, 3 years of Spanish. So they had to have a favorite Spanish song.
Yeah.
So we compiled, it was 16 different students, and we created a 16-song class playlist.
Oh, that's cool.
And every day, we only had 5 days. It was a language lab for 5 days. And every day at the beginning and at the end and in between, we will play one of their favorite songs. And
that's awesome.
It created such a beautiful community virtually. So if you're listening, I want to encourage you to do that. If you're going to be teaching Spanish 2 or Spanish 3, and you know your students have been exposed to music, one of the questions you can ask them at the beginning of the year is, hey, well, what is your favorite Spanish song? And then create a playlist of that and play that, and the students will feel so connected to your class. And it's going to create a really nice environment.
They're going to be wondering, like, oh, what song is it going to be?
Yep.
Like,
or whose song is this? Whose favorite song is this?
Yep.
Yeah. So it creates a really nice community. And I'm telling you, Claudia and I, my friend Claudia and I did this virtually. So it works virtually. I cannot imagine what it's going to be like in the classroom.
Yeah, even teaching, like I said, the majority of my students are Spanish speaking. And one of my best friends does speak Spanish. So when they would tell me their favorite songs, and then I would play it because she said that it was appropriate enough to play, I would play it. And it was even a teachable moment as a teacher to be like, oh, what did they just say? What does that mean? Because then all of a sudden I'd be like, oh, they just said this. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? And so then it's also reinforcing their learning and using the language to explain and like say, okay, this is what they're saying. So music is a big part of everything that I do. Yeah, wow. I could do a whole thing on music. I'm going to keep going. Is that cool?
Yeah, of course.
So touch. Touch is something that I sometimes will turn my air conditioner on and just stand in front of it in the classroom. This is usually the last thing on my list to do is touch because it is so hard to find. Like my last school did not have air conditioning, so that wasn't a thing for me to do. But even like a fidget spinner, and I would do this for my students as well. If they started to feel very anxious, they would get like a stress ball or a fidget spinner, something to touch. And now the problem with this year is that some of my students, like I said, I have the little ones. So sometimes they just wanted a hug. And this year it's not going to look like that. It's going to be very different. So I'm still trying to figure out ways around just students that just need that extra security, and that anxiety that's going to come with that security. So I'm still thinking about how that's going to play out, but it will. And that's another thing, like, you have to remember as a teacher that it is okay if the students are anxious. It is okay if they are stressed out, because they're going to be. And it's okay to ask for help if you find a student that is like, oh my gosh, like, Miss Skoman, I'm really stressed out. What do I do? It's okay to say, like, okay, well, let's figure this out together, because you're not going to have all the answers. And that's okay. Another thing I do is smell. For smelling, I do, I got lotion. I got spearmint lotion. And that just, again, it just tricks your brain into concentrating on the smell. Especially because it's going to be a lot of antibacterial smell this year in Lysol. Go with lotions or something like that that will trick your brain into that.
Especially that, like, I would imagine that you like, right?
Yeah.
So that it takes you to that happy place.
Yep. Yeah, and I struggle with, like, as far as like scents that are like too much, but there's some, like, lavender is really good for stress. And a lot of the time, like, I was using a diffuser in my classroom, and even the students were like counting on that when they would walk into the room, because it just was this sense of like calming smell. It wasn't like I don't know, it just smelled like home, right?
Absolutely. I mean, and even if you're working online, that still is something that would work very well, because I know that today, like I said, I was on the computer for a long time, answering emails, watching trainings, and whatnot. So, yep, I could see how having a diffuser with like
Yep.
lavender would really help me.
No, it really makes a difference. And then there is taste. So I keep a bag of, like, I call it like old man candy in my desk, which is like the Werther's Originals, or like the root beers, Jawbreakers. A lot of them I just kind of like will pop in my mouth if I'm, I need to just take my mind off of something, or something sour, like lemon heads. And that is something else that'll just kind of like snap me out of it. So those are like I definitely focus on the five senses when I'm anxious and stressed out. But then you have the kids, and the kids really need us. So, excuse me, there's 4 things that I do for students, if you don't mind me sharing.
Of course.
It goes along with CALM. So the acronym is CALM, and I'm going to actually make a half pager, and I'm going to put it up for you guys all to use, put on your desk or whatever. But so it's stuff that we do anyway. It's stuff that we do in the classroom anyway, but it just kind of, okay, calm. So C, chat. We're going to chat with the student. If we see them coming in, we want to make sure that we acknowledge them and just say, like, hey, how you doing? Like, hi. You can then start to see how they're feeling. You can start to, oh, they're a little off today, or, something's not right. Like, maybe they're angry about something. And then that goes along with acknowledging it. Like, with acknowledging, it is so important not to use you language, but to use I language. So, like, if you're talking to a student and they're just they're not getting it, they're angry, they're stressed out, they're sad, there's something, you need to just say, like, oh, I feel like, something's wrong. Like, I feel like you don't want to be here. Like, you don't want to be like, what are you doing? Like, why are you acting like this? Because then all of a sudden the students are going to be like, whoa, like, they're going to go into close off mode, because they're going to feel like they're being attacked. And I know from me, when I am very stressed out, and even in the classroom, it's very easy to be triggered when you are at that moment of, like, you're already stressed out, don't know what's going on. And then I have this teacher in my face, you know? So you kind of have to make sure you're using I language because it really, really does make a difference. And it also opens it up for them to know how you are feeling. And it helps them realize that, like, you are not saying that they should feel this way. You are talking about yourself.
Yeah, your perception maybe.
You're right.
And I always do like, but I might be wrong. So,
right. Yeah. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Because then they might. I've had a student that has been like, well, that's not what I meant. And I'm like, okay, I'm just telling you, this is how I feel. This is how it comes off. What did you mean? And then it opens it up for more chat and for more, you know, acknowledging their feelings. And then there's L, and L is listen. So you want to make sure that you listen to them. At some point, you want to make sure that you are listening to the student that is anxious. And that goes along with you also opening up to them, like we said before. If you're having a bad day, right? They're listening to you. So if they're having a bad day, at some point, you want to make sure you're listening to them too. As teachers, especially like language and any other kind of teachers that only get this little bit of a block with the students, we are so pressed on time that we feel like we can't talk to each individual kid at that time. And that is a big stressor for me because I want every student to know that they are heard. And, you know, but I have to get through this lesson, you know? So what I started doing is these posy notes. And basically I have this notepad and it just says like from the desk of Miss Skoman. And like I'll just write like a little note, like, you know, how are you doing? Or, you know, you matter, or, you know, it's going to be okay. I'm here if you need me. Let's talk at lunch, you know, just these little notes. And then I'll just slip it onto their desk for them. And it's just enough. And then, so the biggest thing though with listen is that them knowing that like, okay, she's going to listen to me. Maybe not right now, but I know that she's going to be there for me if I need her to be. And then
so you handwrite these notes as needed?
Yeah, I do. I handwrite them, but I have seen stuff on Teachers Pay Teachers that, you know, there are automatically like printed out and done. Yeah. But for me, I handwrite them. And I actually really want to give away a personalized notepad tonight.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, they're so awesome. They're so great. So I'll talk to you about that in a second. But the big important one is to monitor. And so you've acknowledged it, you've talked to the student, you know something's not right, you got to moderate it. Like you want to make sure that you don't let them just go off and, you know, forget. You don't want them to think that you forgot about how they feel, you know. And it kind of goes the same with us when we're worrying about ourselves during that classroom in the middle of our panic. We have to keep an eye on ourselves too, moderate ourselves too, because if I feel myself getting to a point, I have to be able to acknowledge that and say like, you know what, I need to go to the bathroom, I need to take a bathroom break, and I need to throw water on my face, or I need to step out. And that is okay. Like that's totally okay to do no matter what teacher you are, because I do feel like so often we are looked at as teachers that just have like the special block, or the teacher that, you know, I'm just going to cover them while you are on prep or something, you know. But like we have a very important job too, and we are teaching these students, and it's very important that we take care of ourselves as well, no matter what language you teach.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And I just kind of want to piggyback of what you said of the acronym. In my school, when I'm back in the building, and not right now, but when I'm back in the building, I do this thing that's called the classroom password. So every Friday, I give my students a phrase in the target language. and then they have to use it all the upcoming week as they come in. So it's kind of like,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, so it creates a really nice community, and it teaches them target phrases that sometimes we may or may not get to learn in class, but because they learn it through the password, they use them and they acquire them, and it's so neat. But that also helps me. It gave me in classroom passwords gave me a new meaning in as far as like standing by the door, because I used to hate standing by the door. I'm like, okay, like I need to be prepping my class, so I don't have 5 minutes, and the 5 minutes, why do I get to stand by the door? And I would be upset when my admin would sneak in his head and be like, Miss Delgadillo, you need to be at the door. And but that was years ago.
No, so it's so true.
Yeah, but when I learned about classroom passwords, the way it was presented to me by Bryce Hedstrom, he's a very known Spanish teacher. So I learned it from him, and I listened to him as he said, he was talking about the what do you call it? Oh my God, I forgot the word in English. I know it in Spanish, azafata. In English, the lady or gentleman that's at the airplane.
The attendant, like the flight attendant.
Yes. See, I lost it for a second.
That's okay.
So the flight attendants, they always greet you very nicely at the airplane, and they want to be friendly. Yes, part of your job, but the reason why they're really doing that is because they're monitoring behavior and possible risks for, you're going to get on a plane and you're going to be for God knows how many hours on that plane. So think about your classroom the same way. Yes. So standing at that door as a flight attendant or as a teacher, you're monitoring all the behavior that's coming in, and you can see, like you mentioned, you can see and really notice and make that first eye-to-eye connection with the students, because many of my students will tell me some things that I just, I would be like, no, that's not possible, but it is, sadly. Some of them don't ever get looked in the eyes at all.
Yep.
Unless it's in your class.
Yep.
Some of them,
and there's so many students that don't even hear their name.
Yes, they don't get their name called.
They do not even hear their name.
And then something else, some of them have told me, oh, such and such doesn't even know I'm not there, so I don't go to their class because they still mark me present. And I'm just like, not judging that other instructor, but just feeling for the child, because the child, notices that.
Yes, so, absolutely.
So, when we're standing at the door, that really does show I'm here, I'm ready to greet you, I'm excited to teach you. And there have been many instances where I noticed how one child who's usually my super happy, ready to learn kid, who doesn't have that face as he's coming in. And then I can address that, and then either try to fix it or just know that I'm going to have to give that child not necessarily a pass, but in a way, because they need that moment, or they might not be having the best day. So I totally.
No, absolutely. I mean, think about it as an adult. Like, we have moments that we're just like, please, just give me a second, and then put that into a high schooler or middle school, even elementary. They're not really sure how to handle that. Give me a moment. It's more like, oh, leave me alone. And like, that's how it comes out for them. But like, really, it's because they don't know how to say, like, I just need a moment.
Yeah.
So, and it makes you more self-aware as a teacher as well, like you said, because then it makes you stop getting crazy about your classroom. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because for me, this last school year, I was doing the same thing. I was very like, okay, let's get in, let's get our work done, let's go, we're going to run out of time. And it got to a point where like, they just weren't ready. They were coming in and they were like, like, it's not ELA, it's not math. It's more like they were almost looking at it as a break. And I have mixed feelings about that, but I also used it to my advantage, because yes, it is a break. We're still going to work hard, but I have a little bit more leeway with it. So what I would do is I would take that very first minute, no matter what. There were no do nows, there were no nothing. You would come in, you would sit down, and I would go onto YouTube and I did something called a mindful minute, and it changed everything. Seriously. We do 1 minute and I tell them, all right, guys, you have 1 minute to just not think about anything. You have permission to not worry about your grades, not worry about your siblings, not worry about your parents, not worry about your grades. Like, we have permission. And in the very beginning, I was still using that minute to like, okay, I gotta hurry up and get this ready, get this ready, get this ready. And then one of my kids was like, no, Miss Skoman, like, you have permission too. Like, you need to stop. And I was like, whoa, like mind blown. And it was like ever since then, like we as a class, we take a mindful minute, and then as soon as it dings, because it'll ding when the time is up, we start class, and it just became such a routine, and it was just nice to kind of have that like decompression from the hallway, from like everything, and then we started, and it gave you time to say like, okay, good morning, hello, I'm so glad you're here, you know. So yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, because we do get into that habit of, oh, I gotta get this done, I gotta hurry up, and then you miss that one student who really needed you to know that they were there. So yeah, thank you for saying that. I'm looking at a comment about students who are so uncomfortable when physical contact. Yes.
Yeah.
I am not Latina, and I love showing affection to my kids, so I get this 100%. It is, yeah, this comes back to having a relationship with your students and knowing their boundaries, and almost knowing, like, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the love languages.
Yes, I actually talked about that the other day because I
See?
actually give my students a survey on that at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, so like it's almost like we can be like, for us, our affectionate is like maybe touching, but like for them, maybe it's something else. So you can still hold back, but still feel good because you're being affectionate in a different way. Oh, that's great. That's great that you talked about it.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, what I mentioned, and because not everybody might have been at that presentation, but if you go online at the beginning of the year, we do anything and everything to get to know our students as teachers. So we send the survey for them to complete, and we ask everything about them that we possibly could find out. But I also give them, if you go on Google and search 5 love languages for teens, the 5 love languages comes from the book from Gary Chapman. And so he talks about how there are different 5 love languages that people tend to gravitate towards, like words of affection, physical touch, gifts, acts of service. What was the other one? Well,
I know there's one giving, one getting, talking.
But there's 5, but the ones for children are different, because there's like 5 love languages for marriages, 5 love languages for children, 5 love languages for teens. So we're looking at the 5 love languages for teens, and you can ask them to complete the survey online to find out their results. And you can write their results, like the top 3 5 love languages. And then you will find out as a class what each love language is for each child. So if you know that your class is very much physical touch, that doesn't mean that you're gonna be hugging them, but you can certainly high-five them.
You can, like,
tap them in here.
Just go up and just like touch their shoulder.
Yeah.
You know?
So again, little things like that.
You know, how much of that are we going to be able to do that this year? Yeah. That's honestly probably the hardest thing. Everyone is saying, like, what is the worst? Like, what is the hardest part about going back to school? And for me, it's going to be showing that affection.
Absolutely.
I am a hugger. I am a hugger. My kids know it. They look for it. Like, it becomes like the security blanket for them. And when we were delivering food, because I was delivering food to a bunch of them over the summer, they had to stop at the door, and they were like, "Oh, I want to hug you so bad."
Yeah.
And it's like that is the hardest thing for me.
I have a student whom I taught 2 years ago. So she was not my student last year. And I went to Sam's to purchase some stuff with my husband. And she's like, Mr. Gadillo. And she's a cashier. She left her post to come give me a hug. And I was like, you know, this in the middle of the pandemic. And I'm like, I mean, I didn't mind it at all. You know, I did not mind it. I was not like, but I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this child is like leaving her post.
No, right. They love it. They feed for it. And I do too. And that's, oh my gosh. She's speaking my language right there. Um, I feel like I have to say again, just, before we end or move on to anything else, that we have to really just give ourselves grace this year, and really understand that all these mental things that we are talking about, it's we are not a bad teacher. We are not a bad person. It's not going to make us or break us. Like, it's okay. It's okay to have all these feelings. It's okay to go crazy once virtual teaching starts. If you're teaching on the computer, I was teaching 4 classes plus on prep. I had my son doing kindergarten on Google. So like there were definitely times where I was like, oh my God, how am I gonna do this? And then I realized that like I'm not alone. Like,
Even I had that feeling at moments last semester, because I feel like I I can do pretty well with my teaching, but I felt like I was failing as a mother, because
yes.
I have a 14-year-old son, and my son, he is motivated when he wants to be for the subjects he chooses to, but there are some
Mhm.
subjects that, he doesn't like, that I have to be on top of his business for him to get
Mhm.
the work done.
Yeah.
And he's 14, so we had to
Right.
be in the same room. I had to have him with headphones, and I had to be teaching my class and then
Yep.
monitoring him. And it's kind of like, it comes like, okay, do I want to be a teacher for my students, or do I want to be a mother for my child?
Right.
So stressful.
No, yeah, and then the hardest part for me, honestly, was then my prep time that was then going towards Chase. I wasn't getting for my students.
Yes.
So then my prep time wasn't happening until my husband came home. So then I was working late, and it was a lot. It came to a point where I really had to, step back and be like, I need to take care of myself and realize that this is going to be different. This is not, I'm not going to be able to give 150% like I want to, because it is just not the normal situation. And I feel like as a teacher, I want to give 150% all the time, and no matter what that means. And then you go onto Instagram and you compare yourself to other teachers who are like showing you their highlight reels because they are like sending out all these postcards and calling everybody and doing all these things. And you're like, I'm just trying to get through the day.
And sometimes that's all that we can do,
Yes.
you know?
Yep. And that's okay.
I know that some days I have so much to give and I'm super high energy and I can do all things and I feel like a superstar, but other days I'm also just trying to get through the day.
Yep.
And it's
And
okay.
sometimes take it by a period. Sometimes take it period by period. That is another thing too. When I was in the middle of teaching, if I started to get like really like anxious, I had to like just, okay, I'm only focusing on this period right now, these kids right in front of me. And then I would, it's a lot of talking to myself, and that just comes with habit and like practicing it, because it sounds really silly to say until it works,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So yeah, that's how I feel about that.
Okay, well, you said you were going to share the
Oh,
PDF with us, right?
I will. I will put that on your Facebook, but also I do really want to do this giveaway. So, Little Birdie Papers, who I love to death. Oh my goodness, I use her so much. She is on Instagram, and she makes customized notepads and postcards. I can show you. I don't have any of my notepads here.
I have to go
Like,
to my Instagram right now and
oh my
find
gosh.
her.
So like these are like her postcards.
Oh my goodness.
And like so these are these. Like they're so great.
They're
Here's
so
try
cute.
but I have notepads, and her notepads are great, and they say like from the desk of. And so what I'm going to do is if you go to my Instagram, start, like, and if you're following me on Instagram, DM me, let me know you were here. I'm going to put you into a like a list, and we'll pick a winner, and I will get you a customized notepad. And the cool thing about these notepads is you can, since I'm going to do the personalized ones, you can say like Spanish teacher, or Spanish is lit. Like you can get it to say whatever you want. You can get it in Spanish. If you go look at the website, it's yep. Someone just said Little Birdie Papers. Yes, it is Little Birdie Papers. Look it up, and if you win, you can pick anything that is on there for the notepads, and they are awesome. So just come find me on Instagram, follow me.
Smiling with Science.
Mm-hmm. And they're just so great. And that's what I use to give out the little positive notes that I was talking about. Because then they also are reminded that, like, oh, it's from the desk of Miss Skoman. So she really was thinking about me while she wrote this. It's like the little mental tricks.
I think it's beautiful when we're back in the classroom. I also think that we can do this digitally, even though it might not have the same effect, but it does have wonderful effects too. Because I know that when I was teaching last semester, I often was consuming my time calling the parents of the few children who were coming to my classroom, to my class, my digital class, my virtual class.
Yeah.
But I also made it a point to email the parents of those kids that were always there, because sometimes we forget about those because they're always there.
Absolutely. I don't know if you guys use it, but I am a huge advocate for Remind. And I love it. And I love it because language doesn't become a barrier for me. Because it translate. They have it says like over 70 languages.
Yeah.
And I've been told that the translations are the best.
Yeah, you told me about him. I have used Remind in the past, but I stopped using it like 2 years ago. But you told me about it, and I checked it out, and I shared it with my department, not my department, the teachers in my school, because many times they ask me to do communication with parents of students who are heritage speakers, and there's parents who not speak English. So sometimes they ask me to do that, and that's fine. I can do it. But I'm like, hey, you guys, now you can actually send them a message.
Yep, you absolutely can. And sometimes I'll even use it to translate something. Like if I'm putting it onto a newsletter, I'll go in like I'm going to send a message, and I'll translate it, and then I'll just move it over. And then it's more of like I'll say to my friend, like I said, who does speak Spanish, I'll say like, is this the right verb? Like, does this make sense? And that's a lot quicker than her having to sit there, translate everything. And I feel guilty because I feel like I'm taking advantage of her because she speaks the language. Yes, Remind has been, and it's huge because I can choose whether I want to talk to just one parent or if I want to shoot it out to the entire class.
Absolutely.
I love it.
So if you are a Spanish teacher or a French teacher, well, it will be more for Spanish teachers because, but if you're a Spanish teacher and you're listening and you have, you are the teacher that people always call on to go do translations, now you can tell the teachers, hey, there's a really cool tool that will do the translations for you, and it's pretty decent translating that you can use, and it's called Remind. So tell them about the Remind translate option, and they can definitely communicate with the parents. And I said Spanish teachers, but actually they can communicate with any parents. And
they can communicate with anyone. What's really cool too is the parents can reply back in Spanish, and then you can translate. Like there's a translate button, and it'll just translate it back to English.
I know as word language teachers, we are not very supportive of translation devices, but in this case, we'll make an exception because it's for parent communication.
And I understand that, but this one, as far as like for me, who I'm trying to learn the language, it actually has helped me because the words that I'm seeing more often, I'm like, oh, okay, I know what that word means, and like I'm starting to like actually like pick up the language. I'm really trying, but in like the midst of trying to communicate with a parent or a parent trying to communicate with me, it has really been a help because it doesn't put up that barrier of a parent not wanting to talk to me because I don't speak the language. You know, it shows that I
That
do.
you're taking the extra step to
Yes.
communicate with them.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Dana, for being here with us today. And
Thank you.
we look forward to, I know you also said you were going to share the PDF eventually in the group. So Dana will be sharing the PDF of her tips that she shared with us today so graciously. And I know I just thank you so much for being here 2 weeks after you just got out of surgery 2 weeks ago, right?
I did. Brain surgery, 2 weeks. Going good.
And she is here with us today. I told her we could change it to another week, and she said, "No, I'm okay. I can do it." So thank you so much for being with us today to have this conversation. I know that usually we do strategies for the classroom and everything, but sometimes it's okay to just have this talk about things that we may be doing or we may not be doing. Like, for example, I'm gonna be doing the pass the little papers from the desk of Miss Delgadillo on when we go back to school, for sure. I love that.
The digital way too. It really matters.
Yeah. So really thank you so much, and we'll be waiting for the PDF with the tips. And thank you to everybody who's stayed with us tonight, all night.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry I talked so much.
No problem at all. And if you want to have a chance at winning the
personalized notepads,
personalized notepad, just go follow Dana at Smiling with Science, and then you'll be able to have a chance at winning that. So take much care. All right. And we have see they're all like,
thank you.
Yeah, I know. That's why I told her. I said, if you need more time, that's okay. But she was just like, nope, I'll be there. I can do it. So thank you so much, Dana.
I'm just like kind of hanging out. That's why I'm not like all done up, but I'm here. I'm here.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your time. And yes, and we'll see you guys next Wednesday for transformation here at your group, Transformation Through Acquisition Driven Instruction. Take care.
Bye.